I'm Ian Castle, founder of Microcap Club, home to the best microcap stock pickers on the planet. Since 2011, our members have profiled over 1,300 microcap companies, with over 290 turning into multi-baggers. That's more than one big winner every single month for 14 years. If you share the passion for finding great companies early, before Wall Street and the institutions, Microcap Club is where you belong. Join us.
Thanks, Bobby, and thanks to the Planet Microcap team for having me here. My name is Jared Fehr. A bit about myself. My background is engineering. I worked in oil and gas as a project engineer for a few years, earned my P.Eng, and then moved out west and jumped ship to the dark side and joined finance. I work with Pathfinder Asset Management. Our wealth management division started around 2011, and to date, we have over 500 families and run just over $500 million in AUM. What kind of separates us from other asset managers maybe would be kind of on our logo there. It's equally invested, and what that means is whether you are an associate or you're the CEO of Pathfinder, there are no personal accounts. If there's a company you meet with that you're really interested in, you need to convince our investment committee to put it in a fund. So we have 6 funds here, mostly self-explanatory, I think. I help out on our partners and our resource fund. These are our microcap funds. So we're one of the few institutions that don't mind single and double-digit market caps. We look for early stage, high torque, blue sky optionality, and typically that involves looking at contrarian or out of favor sectors, and then really flipping over as many rocks as possible to find diamonds. And what I guess I'd qualify a diamond is either a stellar management team, a really interesting technology, or perhaps a really novel business idea or business model. And the holy grail is finding all 3. Quick snapshot of our returns as of September this year. I think they kind of speak for themselves. We like to think we're pretty good at what we do. These are post management and performance fees. So this is what our clients see. This is what we see. As part of that alpha generation, I'm going to talk to you guys about LibertyStream Infrastructure. Ticker is LIB. They're a technology company focused on direct lithium extraction in the Permian. Why we like them? They're the lowest cost to produce a ton of lithium compared to these mega projects you've probably heard lots about. And they do that because they're leveraging existing infrastructure from midstreamers. Second, I think they have one of the most de-risked advanced DLE technologies for specifically North American brines. Third, these midstream operators that handle all the water from the Permian, and there's a lot of it, they're getting pressure from the regulatory side to reduce what's disposed. And there's a lot of issues we can talk about later around that. But the most kind of obvious solution is desalination, so we can use that water elsewhere. That comes with a lot of OpEx that these midstreamers will have to eat. And so the most obvious solution really is to extract valuable minerals from the brine you are already moving. Lastly, we're in the business of owning cheap companies that we think will become valuable. And well, unfortunately, this stock has effectively doubled since I made this presentation. We still find it significantly undervalued. I won't spend too much time here. We need more lithium, and most of it comes from Australia as a hard rock, and then you've got brine ponds in South America and hard rock and brine ponds in China. Importantly, China does roughly 70% of all the commercial grade battery refining. The rest of the world does very minimal. It's pretty non-existent. North America effectively doesn't. The 3 main methods, your evaporation ponds. So these are the cheapest method, but they use a ton of land and a ton of water. Your hard rock and clays are kind of your traditional open pit mines, like the Thacker Pass project. These are the most expensive and the most wasteful, you could argue. For every 1 ton of lithium, you're doing 10 to 30 times or more of waste tonnage. The kind of sweet spot in the middle here is your geothermal oil field DLEs. So operating costs, if it's run well, you could get close to an evaporation pond. But it's just, right now, really high technology risk. it's pretty nascent. And we're kind of seeing who the leaders are kind of in real time here. The issue is there's a lot of upfront capital because of that technology risk here. But you produce lithium faster than these other ones, you use less water, and you use less land. So it just fits North American sensibilities significantly better than kind of these other methods. So real quick on the DLE part, basically you take brine from some type of source, you pre-treat it, and that just means you're dropping out mostly your calcium and magnesium, and then you send it to your DLE process. And this is just the cycling process that your sorbent will see. So basically, you've got these big columns, you fill it with your sorbent, and as you're washing your brine through, your lithium gets absorbed, hopefully it's just your lithium, gets absorbed onto these sorbents. And so after it's absorbed, you do a second cycle, and you run either water or acid to then pull the lithium back out. And so in theory, you just have a mostly lithium concentrated stream that you then send for additional concentration, additional polishing if there's any impurities. Finally, you precipitate it into hopefully what is a battery grade carbonate for trucking out. I'm going to speak in very general broad terms here because there's a lot of nuance, but in general, the most important thing you can do is pick your sorbent. There's 3 main types for North America, but 2 are probably the front runners, and that's absorption and ion exchange. A good way to think about this is absorption is kind of your Gen 1. So if anyone mentions alumina or aluminum oxide, they're using absorption. The benefits of this is it's pretty easy system to deploy, and it's very well tested. I said this is pretty nascent, but in brine ponds in China and overseas, this kind of technology is being used to varying degrees of success. Gen 2 is your ion exchange. So this extracts the lithium faster, you can strip it faster, it has better performance characteristics, and can handle bigger swings in your feedstock, but it is much more complex to actually implement. And that's because you need an acid to strip the lithium out. So now you have an acid stream, a caustic stream that you now need to balance. So it is the better performer, but in theory, more complex and potentially more expensive. This is out of date, so I'm going to have to apologize right up front. A lot's changed here. So LIB.V, for example, was acquired by Arcadium. They're in that top left bit there. Rio Tinto then acquired Arcadium. LIB.V also is using Iliad sorbent, so there's some relationships here of kind of everyone using the same thing. Standard Lithium was using Chemionics' ion exchange, doing in-house work. Koch did an equity investment into Standard and kind of has shifted them to their DLE, which is recently, as of 2024, moved to a Chinese sorbent. Lanshen's providing it, and so now Standard is in the absorption column, so that should be moved over. And E3 just did something recently as well. Well, I shouldn't say recently, I'm not sure when they did it, but they were ion exchange in-house, I believe, but they've announced they've moved to an absorption alumina-based sorbent. So basically all these people kind of working on North American brines initially in-house were technology and resource companies, and they picked ion exchange because they knew it was the best chance. But they don't want to be technology companies, they want to be resource companies. So they've moved and kind of given third parties reign over the DLE and have moved to absorption, which is just better understood. But it's not going to work as well for North American brines. So the only bespoke sorbent designed for low ppm brines, low lithium ppm brines, that I know of is LibertyStream's. And that is important. Because if you take a look at these brine compositions, they're completely different from each other. It's tough to argue that something developed for brine ponds, like most of those Gen 1 absorption sorbents are going to work really anywhere else. If you take a look at some of these metrics on the bottom here, they're kind of what qualify what a good brine might be when it comes to extraction. You can see North America across the board, which is I should say, is the 5 right basins are North America. The far left one is just a generic South American brine pond. They're all terrible. Smackover is about the only one that's redeemable with its 400 ppm. So we need probably new technology to do this efficiently. If you use an inefficient technology, just look at the barrels you need to flow. some of these projects in North America want to do 20,000 tons. Like, we're talking Keystone XL volumes. And if your sorbent's inefficient, scaling becomes basically uneconomical. So Liberty's sorbent, that's bespoke, developed at the National Institute of Nanotechnology for them, specifically for low lithium ppm brines, has allowed them to kind of leapfrog the competition, in addition to them partnering with midstreamers. So almost everyone, again, that I know of in North America that has a demo facility at site running goes about to that dotted line there. And what that is post-polishing and concentration. When these companies say we've produced a battery-grade carbonate, what they're doing is they're taking a few liters from their site, sending it to a lab to produce a few ounces of a carbonate. And that's fine, that validates the entire upstream process. Liberty, by November, will be running the whole process at site, connected to the third-party midstreamer who's operating it, producing battery-grade lithium carbonate at roughly 1,000 barrels a day. That's my napkin calcs. They are light years ahead of anyone else. And really what's driving this is their partners. So these midstreamers, this is all they do. They take vast quantities of brine, they move it, they dispose of it, they do some form of pretreatment. This is their life. And so Liberty is just leveraging that. So they can deploy technologies faster and test new technologies and scale much quicker than their competitors. Shifting gears here to some, maybe on the boring economic side. So these are some costs. You can see that they're not quite the lowest OpEx per ton here, but I think they could be. Basically, yeah, so right now when they're running at, let's say, 1,000 barrels, I expect their cost to be quite high. Obviously, as you scale, 10,000, 100,000 barrels, it should come down to be significantly lower. I think they'll be sub 5,000 at scale for various reasons, and especially after they learn to regenerate their hydrogen chloride and their sodium hydroxide streams. But again, that's a bit further down the line. On the far side here, we've got total installed costs. Again, no one comes even close to their total installed cost. They're the cheapest to deploy to get access to a battery-grade ton of lithium. Maybe busy slide here, switching to kind of more on the revenue side. They've got access to a ton of barrels. That is not an issue. So on the left side here, we've got some of the midstreamers publicly traded that we think they might potentially be working with already, and we know they're in talks with others. So what you're seeing here, and it looks like some stuff has shifted a bit, so that's unfortunate. But basically what it's saying here is, for example, if you were partnered with Waterbridge, what that would generate to Liberty is 100 million in EBITDA, because they produce roughly 2.5 million barrels. And what does it cost to deploy that infrastructure? It'd be about 1 year's worth of CapEx of Waterbridge's typical historic CapEx to deploy and access that entire 100 million TAM. So we think Liberty, who's going to be announcing within kind of 6 months, we hope, once the carbonate is being produced, they'll announce both an off-taker, and then I assume what's kind of in parallel or shortly after, who their partner is. We'll kind of know what their EBITDA TAM is. And again, this is really conservative at 15,000 a ton LCE. If you look at Standard's recent feasibility that they reported, that was their bear case. They think in general things will be north of 20,000 and bull case above 30. And that's because the spot price isn't the contract price. In North America, you tend to pay a premium. And especially if the Chinese begin restricting exports. So you can see if they, once they get just a few people on board, their potential TAM is, we're well north of 100 million, and the market cap is about 70 million right now. So, within 6 months, there's some pretty meaningful re-rate events still left on the table. Here's just a kind of quick summary. Yeah, catalyst next 6 months, really a lot of these, if I'm, Santa's wish list, these all come before year end. But realistically, I'm going to give the team a bit of a break here and say they've got 6 months. So, we'll see if they can deliver. But yeah, I guess maybe a couple of questions we could do potentially. So.
Okay.
Thanks. What does the profit sharing look like for their partners versus them for one of their deployed solutions?
Yeah, good question. So it's still not exactly dialed in. In general, it seems like this first partner is going to be a 50-50 split in terms of revenue. That's also a 50-50 split on OpEx costs. And I remember these infrastructure guys, it doesn't cost, when they add $1 of pipe, it doesn't actually cost them $1 of pipe. They're leveraging their existing infrastructure, pumping systems, they already have the power, they know what they need. It doesn't cost them as much to put in that pipe as someone else who's doing a greenfield project. So that OpEx split, even still, even if it's higher than others at first, it's still really attractive. But yeah, it's roughly, I'm guessing, a 50-50 split for their first partner here. Yeah.
Any more questions? Oh, okay. I don't have my rollerblades on.
Hi. So just to clarify, all competitors here seem to be having to pay to lift and drill their wells, and is that really the difference here with Liberty? And might you provide an example in the oil world that might compare?
Yeah. Okay. So for the first bit, it is a big difference. Drilling your own resource, pulling it up, pumping it, and figuring out what kind of brine you've got. Does it stay consistent? Does it change? And then most of them are using an absorption technology that wasn't really designed for North American brines, means you're going to have inefficiencies. And so it makes a big difference. And I don't think, I think it's underappreciated how tough this is at scale. So right now, when all these OpExes and cost and deployment look all very similar, when you start to scale with North American brines, your kinetics and hydraulics take over from thermodynamic principles. And so at a lab scale, 100,000 barrels, that should be easy, we just scale up. That's not really how it works. Liberty's OpEx is coming from in the field at site. They've done over 12,000 barrels a day runs on it. It's just completely de-risked. So when you give them their OpEx, which in theory should be one of the more expensive ones, and it's kind of in line with everyone else's, it's just a massive engineering feat. A chunk of that being the drilling and pumping there. But the sorbent technology is a huge differentiator. And sorry, I completely forgot your second bit there. There's an example. Oh, sorry. Okay. So someone in the oil and gas industry that could have a similar cost structure, that might be a bit tougher to say. I think this is, like I said, the 50-50 royalty and cost share is likely for the first partner. I don't know if that's what they go to for everyone else, if they have to do something different. And I don't really have a good example for you of something like that might exist already. It's, I mean, the midstreamers are, they're pretty heavily involved in this operation, right? The Liberty team's really quite small. Most of the engineering and integration has been done by this third party, whoever it is. So I think it's pretty novel across the board. Yeah. Sorry, I don't have a good example for you. I'll just ramble for a bit longer.